Hey, if you're an author and you want to make a full-time living selling books to readers, and you don't just want your book to be a lead magnet that you give away for free to sell some like upgraded service or something, which, by the way, if that's your business model, great, but still please put all the meat that you possibly can in your books. I hate buying a book thinking that I'm going to get insider information and then realizing that all of the best content is left out of the book only so that I have to sign up for some stupid course. Now, I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I definitely have bought books thinking I was getting something and realized that they held back the best stuff for their course. Don't do that. That is morally reprehensible. But if you're an author who wants to make money selling books because books are where you put the best stuff, fiction author, nonfiction, doesn't matter. If you write novels like The 9 Lives of Margaret DeLonghi or The 8-Ball Magic of Susie Q, I highly encourage you to go ahead and get into ammo. Author Marketing Mastery through Optimization is simply, bar none, the best program that I have ever found to sell books. What makes it different is that you don't get into a system where people try to pump you up and get you excited to get out there and market your books. Actually, what happens instead is that Steve Piper has created a patented, well, I don't know if it's patented, but it is a unique in the entire industry way to test Facebook ads so that you know what your audience is interested in reading, what they enjoy clicking on, what images they like, what taglines they like, and then creating a perfectly targeted sales ad so that when you release it to an audience, you get tons of clicks, tons of purchases. It's not uncommon for somebody in the ammo program to see 8% click-through rate and have upwards of 20% of people converting on the sales page. That's unheard of in the industry. Oh, and I forgot to mention the best part. You can see click costs as low as 80 cents. My best performing ad ever had an 8% click-through rate and just cost 80 cents per click for a purchase ad. If you look industry-wide, that's absurd. So get yourself into ammo. Click the link in the show notes for more information on ammo and Steve's unique program. Now, today is a library episode. Happy Monday, by the way. I personally haven't had the Mondays in a long time because I haven't been in a traditional career for a while, but I do understand that you may be driving into work while you're listening to this, and the Mondays are a real thing, especially if you're an author who's listening to this podcast. You probably are very serious about trying to get your career off the ground, and so every time that you finish the weekend and go back into work, you're feeling that sense of like, is it going to be now? 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 I remember feeling that. And let's be real honest, it's still not now for me. I just had enough saved up from my previous endeavors in real estate investing and whatnot to take a run at this. And I'm running out of money. I've been really transparent about that I have a timeline to get this ship taking off. So with that in mind, if you love TRBM and you haven't bought my books, that's the easiest way to make sure that I can keep doing this. Buy my books, more so than even joining ammo, which, yes, I do get compensated if you sign up for ammo. It's not a large amount, but Steve and I have partnered. We've collaborated. I started this podcast out called Create Collaborate, and Steve and I are collaborating in getting ammo out to the world. I do that exclusively with him, because I believe in his program. I've been part of ClickFunnels with Russell Brunson. I have been part of Grow the Show with Kevin Schmidlin. I have been part of Self-Publishing Formula. I've been part of Kindlepreneur. I've done all of these different things, and none of them, frankly, work terribly well. And I'm sure that if those people heard me say that right now, they would be like, you didn't work the system hard enough. You didn't have the right product. You didn't listen. You didn't do this. You didn't do this. Okay, I mean, that may be true, but then why did ammo work for me? That's a good question. Ammo worked because it was a systematic program that you can follow. You put emotion aside and you just follow step by step by step in the videos. Um, I do know that there are some people out there who have an extremely emotional response to the videos in the ammo program and feel like Steve is just trying to turn every author into click candy. That's not true. But you just have to trust me there, because once you get through the pain point, some amazing things start to happen. All right, enough on ammo. This is, again, library series. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what I have been doing the past couple of weeks to get my book into more libraries, and what has been working for me that I didn't even know was working for me until I checked some statistics a couple of days ago. So the couple of days ago statistics is kind of, I think, the center of this podcast, and I'm going to talk more in depth about it in the coming weeks. But Findaway Voices is a really special place for authors and for audiobook narrators. You can't be part of Findaway Voices unless you have an audiobook to upload into their catalog. You can't be part of Findaway Voices if you have an exclusive deal with Audible. I caution you strongly, do not, under any circumstances, I plead and I beg with you, do not have an exclusive deal with Audible. Seems like a great deal on the front of it, because you can get an audiobook done for free. If you're not watching this right now, I am making the most ridiculous air quotes possible, because free is a lie. Every single time you see the word free, it's a lie. There's something behind it that is pulling the strings and taking control out of your hands and putting it in the giver hands. Okay, so Audible in this case gives you a narrator for free. They narrate that book, but then for 6 years, 5 years, they own exclusive rights. You can't do anything with that audiobook. It belongs only in the Audible service. And that's cool because you can get some sales. There's also the fact that the narrator is going to take a huge chunk of your profits. Audible is going to take a huge chunk of your profits, and you're just going to be left with a pittance. So don't do it. Going wide is far preferable in every case. I will argue this in a couple different ways. You may have listened to my last conversation with Will Gray when we discussed the merits of being in KU. I kind of think of that like Disney, and I don't know if they still do this because of Disney Plus, but they used to have all of their animated films in a cycle, and then they would go into, I think it was called moratorium. And those movies would disappear. You couldn't get them, you couldn't buy them unless you could find a used copy somewhere, and they would just be dormant for a period of time. So I think of KU as being a version of Disney, where you may find some benefits in going for a 6-week burst on KU. And that means you actually have to pause all of your outside channel sales to go exclusive with KU. It's not a terribly hard thing to do. You just have to understand where your book is being distributed, because if Kindle catches you trying to do KU but also being wide, you can get banned from KDP entirely, and that's just not a great place to be. So don't do that for sure. You want your books to be wide, available on Kindle, available on Audible, but also available wide. There are a couple of times when it might be beneficial to just be with Kindle and KU, or never the audiobook deal though with Audible. That's just not, no, never. So Findaway Voices is a wide distribution platform, and what it does so well is that it has curated the top places where people can listen to your audiobooks. So go ahead and jack your headphones right into this book here. I'm holding 9 Lives of Marva DeLonghi for any of you who are not watching but just listening, and pull up Spotify, pull up Walmart.com, pull up BarnesandNoble.com, pull up Overdrive, Libby, Audible, any of those apps, Hoopla, Libro FM, where audiobooks are distributed, and Findaway Voices will have distributed it to those places for you. A good example of this, and this is going back to the beginning of the episode, Uh, I didn't even know that Findaway Voices had distributed my book to something called Bibliothek or Bibliotheca or something. I know Biblioteca is library. I know that because Adam Sandler did a joke on one of his albums about Biblioteca and Ayúdame, Ayúdame. If you know, you know. But also, I study Spanish. I love the Spanish language. I'm not going to try to speak any of it for you right now because my head will go completely blank, but I've been studying it for just about a year now. And I did that a couple of years ago where I studied it for a year and then fell off. I have a fairly decent catalog of Spanish in my head. I think I might possibly be able to hold a conversation like a child would. I've gotten off topic. So in this case, the Bibliotheca thing is actually German. And there are 9 libraries in Germany that have purchased my audiobook. I didn't ask them to do that. I didn't know it was happening. It was just because it was available in Findaway Voices, and they distributed it to a partner that picked it up. I've also gotten a handful of sales through other channels that I didn't know were being distributed to. I didn't do any work other than putting in Findaway Voices. And right now that has generated me a grand total of $30. It's not huge, but having it there sets the table, sets the stage for a great thing, and that is getting into libraries. So now my book is available in Hoopla. My book is available in Overdrive as an audiobook. My book is available at all of the aforementioned channels, but specifically Hoopla and Overdrive, Libby, because those are the library's collections. And I'm about a month in arrears, so I will get information and data on this right now, but I know that my book has been acquired through Overdrive with several libraries. That is going to be about a $10 sale for each time that happens. And then pay-per-click with Hoopla is going to be just around a half a buck. So it's not huge, but if you get a ton of listeners at a library, if you drive interest, if you drive readership, listenership, you're going to get a massive impact eventually. I think that I liken libraries to grassy prairies, okay? You can find so many of them. They're vast, and at first glimpse, they might not be beautiful. But when you understand what they do and how they work, they can be the spark that ignites a grass fire. And if you know anything about grass fires, they are the fastest burning fire known to man. Forest fires are awesomely destructive in that they get really hot and they consume whole trees and animals and birds, and it's very destructive. But forest fires don't tend to be quite as quick as grass fires because forest fires have a lot of fuel to consume. And I know I'm kind of giving like agency to fire, like it has thoughts. It doesn't. I don't understand the science behind it. It doesn't move quite as quickly because of that fuel that it has. It localizes and it burns hotter right here. But with a grass fire, because it burns the grass so quickly, it's like a torch. It just bam goes really, really quick. And I think of libraries that way. Not beautiful until you understand what you're looking at, and extremely potent in a quick manner to spread vastly. Get your books in a library collection, and a book club starts reading it. When a book club reads it, you have this unique opportunity that a lot of authors might not get, where people are reading with an eye to conversation. And when you read with an eye or a mind to conversation, you engage with the material differently. Whether you're reading a novel or a biography or a textbook, if you read with a mind on conversation, you really get a connection with the book. And so in my case, The 9 Lives of Marvin Longhai might be something that is purchased online when the reader knows nothing about me. And they probably will like it because it's a well-written book. I took the time to make a great story, to edit it, to proofread it, to get the cover designed by a professional graphic designer. She's also married to me in this case, so it didn't cost me out of pocket for that, but trust me, I've spent plenty on this stupid book. Oh, rough, man. And that sets the stage for somebody to like the book. But if you buy it, you read it, you like it, boom. Maybe you rate it on Amazon, Goodreads, whatever. I know I do, just because I've always liked to let the world know how many books I read and stuff. I was rating books long before I understood what it did for authors. But um, there's so many books that I've read and enjoyed and given decent like star ratings on Goodreads that I don't even remember who the author is. I just picked up the book, read it, liked it, boom, done. Okay, a pleasurable experience. What happens when you get into a book club is that you go deeper with the reader. So I'm going to pull off the shelf here right next to me. If you're not watching, I have a bookshelf behind me. You can't even see it on screen, but this book, The Border of Paris by Paradise Paris. The Border of Paris. Paris is paradise. Boom. Okay. Esme Wei-Jong-Wang. Yeah. If you notice, I didn't actually even look at her name. I remember this book very well because I read it for a book club with my friend Jeff, a handful of other people. I miss that book club. But, you know, the funny thing about the book is that it actually wasn't one that I loved. I was somewhat critical of it. I felt like pacing wasn't great. Character development was ish. But I remember her. I remember the discussion, and I bought her next book, even though I didn't love her first one, because there was this deep connection with that book. And it's on my shelf in my office. I don't have much shelf space up here. I have one slender, slim bookshelf that has about a dozen books per shelf, and it's 6 high. And then I have the one that's on my standing desk, and that's literally 2 shelves. It has Dennis Johnson, it has Roberto Bolaño, it has David Foster Wallace, and it has Bernard Malamud. Those are my 4 most influential, favoritist authors. Also, I do have Ethan Hawke's most recent book. I can't see the title. A Bright Ray of Darkness. I actually think that title's horrible, but I love the cover art, and the book itself is brilliant. Ethan Hawke, confession time, is the only author whose book I have read in a single sitting. I did it twice with his first book, which the title is evading me right now. I also did it the second time with his second book, Ash Wednesday, which wasn't as good as the first book. But he's a great actor. I hear he's somewhat of a despicable man. I'm not going to make any judgments. I've never met him. I enjoy listening to his interviews on podcasts, etc. But the dude can write. His books are so good. His novels are really, really good. And they might be of a time. I might go back and read them and think like, yeah, you know, it was great when I was a teenager and angsty and love, whatever, but I love his books. And so I do have his most recent book on this shelf up here as well. I've gotten a little bit off topic, but what I'm saying here is that in so many cases, if you can get into a book club, you can create lasting memories and a super reader, somebody who is going to keep buying your books over and over, so that your only job then is to write a great book. And when you get enough of those readers, they're going to be your best promotion. There's going to be a point where they recommend your book to everybody they know. It comes up in conversation naturally. They're thinking about it. And a lot of the promotion that you have to do yourself is going to be offloaded onto the reader. That's the dream. And libraries are the grass fire that can do that for you. With a library, they can select that book and make it a book of the month or a book club pick. You're going to get a ton of reads. It may be that it's on Libby, and so they only buy 20 or 25 copies of it, and that's not a massive like payday, but it's decent. It's something. Or it may be on Hoopla, and you get 10,000 downloads just like that. Okay, so even though Hoopla may pay you 50 cents per download, at 10,000 downloads, that's a reasonable paycheck. We're talking the biggest authors, the Stephen Kings. They are getting 10,000 downloads a day, nationally, internationally, maybe more than that, through the library systems. Passive income just flowing into their bank accounts. We're not Stephen King yet. But if you're listening to this podcast, you might want to be Stephen King. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to be Stephen King. Not exactly, but I want to do what he does. And that's the journey we're on right now. But instead of having a publisher who does all of this stuff for us, we have to do some of the groundwork ourselves. So how easy is it that you can just upload a book into Findaway Voices and then have it distributed widely? and this kind of stuff can start to happen without you babysitting it. Then you really start to focus on that library distribution where you let libraries know that you're a local author. Maybe that's a great place to start. I'm a local author. I wrote this book. I set the book in this environment, this place. That's a really good selling point, by the way. And I just want as many people to know about it as possible. Do you have any book clubs that might be interested in reading a mystery? Yeah, great. Okay, so there you go. That's how I got my second book club reading The 9 Lives of Marvin DeLonghi. And my guess is that maybe some of them don't love it. Maybe some of them find it not like perfectly their cup of tea, just like with The Border of Paradise, Paris, The Border of Paradise, by Esme Wei-Jong Wang. But they still might buy the next book. And some of them are going to love it. And they're going to buy my next book, even though it's not part of the book club. They might even get it in multiple formats. And so that takes me to my next point. This is really focusing on what Findaway Voices can do for you. And so I think I've mentioned it probably a dozen times on the podcast, but I'll say it again. I highly prefer to listen and read with my eyes at the same time. I almost never read just with my eyes because I find it difficult after a long day to focus closely enough to get into the zone without audio in my ears. That's just the truth. And because of the magic of the phone, if I can get my hands on even an ebook, then I can just 2-finger swipe and an AI voice will read it to me. Even though that's not a great performance, hearing it while reading it does a couple of things for me. It speeds up my read speed, which I'm a very slow reader when I'm reading exclusively with my eyes. But it also just intensifies my dive into the book. So my preferred way is to have both things going at once. But like I said, I will listen to audiobooks. I never listen to my favorite authors unless I also have their book. So the big thing here is double format. If a book is available on audiobook and paperback, that's my preference. I can't afford to buy both copies of every book that I have. So what I do is I have a library card. I actually have multiple library cards, by the way. So I am a patron at Lincoln Public Libraries, which has a reciprocal relationship with Omaha Public Libraries. So I'm able to hold both of those library cards legally. I also lived in Spokane for a number of years, and thank you, Spokane. You don't check that my address is no longer active, but I still hold my Spokane Public Library card. If you take it away from me because of this video, shame on you, shame on you. I just shouted you out. I love Spokane Public Libraries. So I have that library card as well. I have Front Range Libraries in Colorado. I used to live there, and so I knew an address that I could feed to the system that people I know and love live at. And so, anyways, get as many library cards as you can because every library has a slightly different collection and I have specific tastes. So I want to have the most opportunities to borrow books as I can. With that in mind, though, as an author, you want to make sure that your potential readers don't have to do what I'm doing. You want to see that your book is in every library system. Then people only need one library card to listen, read you. But multi-format, okay? Get the audiobooks into libraries because that is the typically most expensive format to acquire. So people tend not to buy a ton. Maybe they'll have a subscription to Audible. I think you get a credit a month for $10, which, is what it is. If somebody's only reading, 12 books a year, you're gonna have a hard time getting on their list. You're gonna have a hard time convincing them. For the people like me who read upwards of 150 books a year, I'll take a chance, absolutely. But I'm not buying all those books. Absolutely not. I'm not buying those books. I'm not buying all those books. I'm listening to them through the library as a good citizen of the world who can't afford that much. Hopefully one day I can, but right now I certainly cannot. And I use the library just like avidly. Get in libraries. Use Findaway Voices. Your audiobook will be uploaded without you even having to do anything into Hoopla and any pay-per-click system. That takes away a ton of the work for you. Then you only just have to build awareness for library patrons that your book is out there. Listen to it, enjoy it, love it. Overdrive's a different case. You're most likely going to have to request every single library to buy your book for their Overdrive collection. That's going to be easier the closer you are to home. It's more difficult as you spread out. I will say that fiction is a little bit easier than nonfiction in some cases here, because all you have to do to prove that you are applicable to the patronage is that you're in a genre that readers binge on and love, and that you're writing quality books. It's not terribly hard. We talked about reviews a few episodes ago, so consult that episode for ways to build a little bit of credibility for yourself, and go and just take advantage of that in any way that you possibly can. Now, I want to wrap up this conversation by saying that all of this is dependent on the quality of your work. That's how I started the library series, and it's where I want to finish this episode again. I know you might feel a sense of desperation to be famous, to be in front of a million readers, and sometimes that sense of desperation can lead you to publishing unfinished work. I had a conversation with Matt Herron, a little while ago, and he talked about the idea of, multiple drafts doesn't necessarily make a book better. I agree and disagree with that. I think that there's a point where you've overworked something. You throw a piece of meat on the grill and there is an ideal moment to pull it off. You don't want to just leave it there. Cooking more does not improve the final product. So draft wisely, but make sure that the quality of the book is up there, so that when it is read by people, they love it, they hold it, they feel that quality, just every step of the journey. It's great. And I want to give you some homework. I've been trying to give you homework for these library episodes. So 0.1 homework, my book right now should be available in your library catalog through Overdrive. You will be able to find it. It might not have been purchased. In fact, I almost guarantee it's not. If you would do me this favor, I would love you forever, if that matters to you. Or you could just go to sleep tonight knowing that you helped a person. Request my book from your local library if you have a library card. If you don't, get a library card. I guess that's 0.001 homework. If you don't have a library card, go get one today. Don't delay. If you have a library card, request The 9 Lives of Margaret Longhigh to your library's collection. And I'm specifically asking you to do it with my audiobook, because I believe that audiobooks right now are the greatest untapped potential, somewhat tapped, but they're the greatest potential for binging. A lot of people read most of their books as audiobooks. So please do go out there and request wherever you are. If you're in Arkansas, like Joe Radke, please request the audiobook from your library through Overdrive. You do need to have a library card in order to request things, but it takes a couple of seconds to get one. You can do it online. That's 0.01. Okay? Homework 1.0. If you don't have audiobooks, get audiobooks. We already talked about don't go exclusive with Audible. Findaway Voices actually has a narrator option, very similar to Audible, but it is wide distribution. So that would be the lowest point of entry. I wouldn't personally recommend it, but if your finances are such that you can't afford to pay up front $500 per finished hour, which is what I paid for the lovely and talented XC Sands, then go ahead and do what you need to do to get the audiobook, because long term, that artifact, that asset, could be the foundation of something huge for you. So that's 1.0. If you don't have your audiobook, use Findaway Voices, find a narrator, get your book up there, get the book recorded, get that done. If you can afford to pay for it, do so, but get your audiobook recorded. If you have an audiobook, homework 1.1, it's going to get really challenging to remember my numbering system, is to upload it to Findaway Voices. So you might have the audiobook and don't know that Findaway Voices exists. It is www.find, F-I-N-D, W-A-Y, voices, VOICES.com. Findaway Voices, okay? Upload it there. It will do mass distribution. I think I already said this, though I will let you know I recorded this entire podcast and realized that my iPhone didn't have enough space, so I had to delete a bunch of stuff, and this is round 2. Ding, ding. But anyways, I shouldn't have gone on that tangent. If you are exclusive with Audible, do not, under any circumstances, upload to Find Away Voices, because you could get banned from all of Amazon. And selling your books on Amazon, while it is not a great place to be exclusively, is a wonderful place to be in the list of wide distribution. A lot of readers use Amazon, Audible, KDP, KU, Vela, so don't piss them off. But don't go exclusive with them either. I mean, they are trying to twist your arm to make you be exclusive with them. And so they give you more than double the money if you're exclusive with them. But trust me, in the long run, getting out to all of these libraries, getting out to all these other places, being wide, going to Walmart.com, going to BarnesandNoble.com, going to Libro.fm, all the different ways that you can get your books to readers will, in the long run, benefit you. There are times, like I said with Disney, where you can go exclusive for a while, but really, trust me, don't make an exclusive deal. So that's 1.1, I think, is upload to Find Away Voices, as long as you're not already exclusively attached to Audible. 1.2 is you're already uploaded to Find Away Voices. Your book is already out there. It's distributed through Hoopla and other pay-per-click avenues, is to start requesting libraries pick it up via Overdrive. So build your email. It can be something really simple. It can be more complex. Go back and consult my episode with Eric Otis Simmons. He talks a little bit more in depth. You can also listen to his episode with Joanna Penn on the Creative Pen podcast and get more of an idea about the process. You can use his systems to get into libraries. There's a lot to love about what he's doing. I will note again, it's very important that you know, libraries do buy your book 2x. The reason they buy your book for double the price that it is retail is because once they own it in their Overdrive catalog, they don't have to pay again to lend it. They can just keep lending that same copy, which means 50 people might read a copy of a book. So 2x ends up being a really great deal for them. So don't bring that price down. Libraries understand what they're doing. They will buy at 2x. They have the funding to do so. You just have to create the correct value proposition for why it belongs in the library. We'll do that in a later episode, building your value proposition, because it is something that really can help. But that would be homework 1.2, I think, is start to request your book in other libraries. And along with that, just like I said at 0.01 or 0.1, whatever, is the same way that I'm asking you to request my book in your library. Find your friends who can request a book in their library locally and out through the country, even across the ocean in Great Britain, Germany, places like that. Have people request the book, because when a patron of a library actually requests a book, chances it gets bought are 75% higher. And that's a really easy way where you don't have to use that whole value proposition. You don't have to touch each library, but you just use your network of people, which part of 1.2, I guess, would be like 1.21 is make sure that you're kind to people. Make sure that you're giving and generous, because people will remember your kindness and your generosity, and they'll give back. I know that sounds like really selfish and double lifey. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it's just a good way to live your life. If you're kind to people, even if you have ulterior motives, they're going to feel good when they interact with you. And don't have ulterior motives if possible. It's hard not to when you're trying to make a living on your books. I understand. Sometimes I'm nice to people that it's hard to be nice to, because I know that they might be able to reach somewhere I can't. A lot of times, most of the time, I'm nice to people because people deserve to be nice to. So that would be the easiest way, is to reach out to your network and say, hey, do you have a library card? Please, I'm begging you, please request this book from your library. 75% chance it goes in. That's a lot of sales. And so finally, homework 1.3, I've given you a lot of homework today, is go ahead and start to build a list of book clubs, because we're going to talk more in depth about book clubs. If all of the things that I've mentioned you've already done, you've exhausted that, then start to build your list of book clubs, because you want to know where potential readers are. You don't want to connect with them yet. You just want to know where they are and we'll move forward with a robust list of book clubs and create a lot of noise, a lot of excitement for your books. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining me this lovely Monday. And if you're listening after the fact, whatever day it might be for you, go get them.